2005 through 2023 6-lug Toyota Tacoma needs a suspension refresh and some extra height for the front. These rough country M1 Adjustable Leveling Front Struts are a great solution. Now, these adjustable struts offer 0 to 2 inches of lift for the front and make for some more precise adjustments compared to other set struts if you want to dial in the lift height to level the rake on your truck to a preferred setting, or even just create your preferred fitment with your wheel and tire setup. It's also a solid option for added performance if your current struts are worse for wear, bogging down your handling and stabilization up front. If you want a stiffer and more controlled driving experience, whether you're sticking to the street or tackling any off-road terrain. Now, this set features benefits in the adjustability and the design, offering good capability for your truck. Now, the adjustable height allows you to go up to that 2-inch mark, creating more ground clearance underneath the front for better approach angles and clearing obstacles. It should be able to fit up to a 33-inch tire with modifications, 31s and 32s without. And they'll open up some room in the wheel well, not only for that larger tire, but for more suspension travel and articulation. Now, the strut itself is also a big step up in performance compared to the factory struts and even some of rough country's more entry-level choices, thanks to the monotube build and the digressive piston, which work together in creating a predictable and a longer lasting shock. Now, the digressive valving here helps keep the strut a bit stiffer in low shaft speed situations, offering a bit more control and less body roll like when on the highway. But when the shaft is moving much quicker, like over potholes, washboards, or any tougher situation, it offers more cushion for reduced chatter and a less harsh feeling while you're driving. These have a large 2-inch extruded aluminum body, which is a good size and a good material to disperse heat well to keep the shock cooler over longer periods of time, which will help maintain the performance being a little bit more consistent. Now, the aluminum is also zinc plated to ensure that these are tough and going to resist any corrosion even in harsh conditions. It also has a large 46mm piston and monotube design to resist fade from tougher abuse, and an 18mm hardened chrome piston rod, which also resists abuse, but mainly from any kick-up or debris that could get behind the coil and potentially cause any nicks, which may cause leaking. These are going to resist that altogether. These also have vulcanized rubber bushings to maintain a quiet operation and give a good refresh to your current setup, and everything that's needed in the kit for a hassle-free install is included. This set will cost you about $600, which is right in the middle of the road for price when it comes to a set of struts. Now, in thinking about it as a leveling kit, this set offers much more than a spacer would, with a big improvement in ride performance and the adjustability, but it doesn't take it over the top with a full coilover system that you may not need or want to invest in at the moment. Now, comparing this to other struts, it also has a lot of really good specs with the digressive valving monotube construction, and it's made of an aluminum material. All of those offer a really good lifespan and great performance for the price point if you want a higher quality shock without the steep price tag. Now, install is a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. It is a completely bolt-on swap, but I do recommend a little bit of experience in order to tackle this job. Now, you will have to figure out what height that you want to set these at, so with the adjustments and the installation, should be looking at about 3 hours or so to get the job done. I also highly recommend an alignment after the install for the best tire wear and component wear as well as performance. Now, at this point, I'm going to hand it over to one of our installers. They're going to show you a detailed breakdown on how you can install these on your Tacoma at home. So that's going to wrap it up for me. Let's go ahead and get into the install.
Tools required for this install include a couple different size impact guns, a hammer, needle nose pliers, 19mm wrench, 14, 15, and 19mm ratcheting wrenches, a pry bar, an extension, 10, 12, 17, and 19mm sockets, and a spring compressor and snap ring pliers. What's up, guys? Today we're installing a leveling kit on our Tacoma, so let's get started.
All right, so the first step in our uninstall, with your truck in the air supported, you're gonna remove that front wheel. Now, if you don't have a lift, a jack and jack stands will work fine as long as it's supported safely. Once you've done that, grab a set of needle nose pliers. We're gonna remove the cotter pin holding on that nut for our outer tie rod. So to get this cotter pin out, it helps to straighten the other side. Just go ahead and pinch those 2 pins straight. And once you've done that, grab the opening, use some leverage, and just pull it straight out. And now that your cotter pin is removed, you can get a socket on top of here. We're gonna use a 19 millimeter. Go ahead and remove this nut. Now, if the ball joint is fully seated in this part of the knuckle, it's probably not gonna come out from just force down. What you may need to do here, suggest turning that a little bit to give yourself some more room. Rethread on this nut to protect your threads. And then we're just gonna strike this side right here with a hammer to release this ball joint. Once that is released, go ahead and remove that nut again and pull it out of the knuckle. Next up, we're gonna remove the sway bar end link from the knuckle. Now you need to remove this 17 millimeter nut. You can do it with an impact, but if the end link starts to spin, you'll need a 17 millimeter wrench and a 6 millimeter Allen key to hold that end link steady so you can break it loose. Then once your nut is removed, go ahead and remove the end link from the knuckle. Next up, we're gonna be removing this bolt that holds on your brake line bracket, just to give us a little extra slack when we drop our knuckle down. Grab a 12 millimeter socket and get this bolt removed. Remove the bracket out of the knuckle. Next up, we can also remove this second bracket that holds the brake line to the frame, just to give us a little bit more room here. We're using a 12 millimeter wrench just because this line's a little bit in the way. You can use a socket with a swivel as well. And make sure you remove the brake line out of this hole as well. There is a second ABS line that is attached to your upper control arm. What you want to do here is grab a 10 millimeter socket and remove this bolt so that you can remove this bracket as well. Next up, we'll be removing this pin holding on the nut for your upper ball joint. And on the far side, this might be a little bit hard to see, but there is a tab that you need to release. And once you've released the back part of this clip, grab a needle nose pliers and just pull it straight out. Now you can see the hook part that we had to release right here. It goes around the edge of the nut. Once you remove that, we can remove the nut. Now that we have that pin removed, we can grab a 19 millimeter socket with a swivel extension and remove this nut. We're actually gonna leave it on just slightly because we will need to hit this part of the knuckle to release it. You'll wanna strike right on the side of the knuckle in order to release this ball joint. Now with a pry bar, we can pry down on that upper control arm, give ourselves a little bit of slack, remove the nut, and then release the upper control arm out of the knuckle. Now we can fully release the knuckle from the upper control arm, but since we have it hanging off to the side here, what we're gonna do is just have a bungee cord support this for now so that we don't damage the axle, which is still attached. We don't need it to fully support, but as long as we're just taking a little bit of the weight off of it, that will be better. Next up, we're gonna be removing the 3 nuts that hold on the top of the strut. Grab a 14 millimeter socket, or we're using a ratcheting wrench here, and get these removed. You can leave one threaded on slightly just to hold that in place. Continue on to remove the rest of them. This one in the back is probably going to be hard to see, but the same process, using your socket or wrench, go ahead and remove it. Now for the bottom of the strut, you'll need a 19mm wrench. And a 19mm socket, and get this nut removed. Now to remove this bolt, right now there's a bit of tension on it from the lower control arm and the strut. Now if you lift up on the lower control arm, you should be able to wiggle it free, and if you don't have a second set of hands, you can grab a rubber mallet and tap it out. In order to make it easier to drop our strut, we are going to lower the sway bar. This step is optional. If you can wiggle that strut out with the sway bar in place, feel free, but this does make it a lot easier. There's 4 12mm bolts holding on this cover. Once that's removed, we can drop the sway bar down and out of the way. Grab a 12mm socket, go ahead and remove all 4 of these bolts. Next up, remove the other 12mm bolts. This one is at the back. Now we're moving on to the front 2 bolts on your skid plate. These are a little bit harder to get to. You can remove this plastic trim piece, or you can just grab an extension and pull it back slightly. Once you're on it, go ahead and remove that with a 12mm socket. Repeat that with your other bolt at the front of the skid plate. Make sure you're supporting this, as this is the last bolt holding it in. Now with all the bolts removed, you can remove this skid plate by pushing it slightly forward. That will unhook the front. Once it's unhooked on both sides, you can bring it down. Now that we have our skid plate removed, we can remove these 2 14mm bolts on each side that hold on the sway bar bracket. Grab a 14mm bolt and get these removed. Now make sure you have something supporting this so you don't let it fall straight down. And now that we have the sway bar mount disconnected on this side, make sure you repeat those steps to disconnect the end link as well as the mount on the opposite side. And once the sway bar is completely disconnected, you can go ahead and slide it out of the way. Now there are 2 brackets there, so it won't come off the truck unless you remove those, but as long as you push this out of the way, we can now remove the strut assembly. We're removing that nut that we had placed on top just to hold it in place. Then we can bring it out and down and remove it off the truck.
Now before we get our new struts onto the truck, I'm going to explain how you can adjust these. Now what you'll have to do is get a spring compressor. You're going to compress this spring enough to get this bottom spring perch moved up. You might even have to take a 19mm socket to remove this nut and then just pull this whole assembly off. Right inside here we have a lot of little grooves and a snap ring. You would pull this lower collar off, grab snap ring pliers and pull that ring off and move it into a different one of these grooves to make your adjustment. Now the higher it is, the higher your ride height will be, and the lower it is, the lower your ride height will be. Now lucky for us, right out of the box, these are set to the highest setting, so we don't have to do any adjustment. If you don't want to go for the highest setting, then you will have to get that spring compressor and snap ring pliers to move that snap ring. So right here underneath this spring perch, you can see these grooves. That's going to be what you're putting that snap ring into, and that'll either raise or lower this spring perch to adjust your ride height. So now if you wanted to make any adjustments, once you have them made, we can install our strut. I'm going to get it up into the upper strut mount, and then I'm just going to thread on our 3 nuts just to hold it for now. We're not going to tighten those down yet. Careful with the one in the back, we don't have a lot of room to work with. And now we'll grab our lower strut bolt and get that through our bottom mount. And then take your flat washer and nut, thread that onto the other side. And I'm going to leave this bolt loose for now until we get to the end here. Now with Tacoma suspension, you're going to want to get that strut in on the other side. Reason being, you're gonna have to pull this sway bar up over the axle once you reconnect your upper control arm. And if you do that on one side before you have the strut in on the other side, you're not gonna be able to get this strut in. So repeat that process on the other side, and then we'll come back and reconnect our upper control arm ball joint. So now we're gonna reconnect our knuckle to our upper ball joint. Now make sure you got your sway bar above your axle so it doesn't get pinched here. I've got a buddy with a pry bar helping me out, because it is a little bit of a pain to get this down and connected to the knuckle. So he's gonna pry down now. I'm gonna thread that nut on, and then we can go back and tighten that down. Now you can grab a 19mm ratcheting wrench, tighten down that upper ball joint nut so we can get our cotter pin back in. And once you have that tightened down, you want to take a look and make sure one of these slots in the castle nut is lined up with the hole in the stud, which ours is. Now if yours isn't quite lined up, you want to tighten it a little bit more. You never want to loosen this to get that hole to line up. And then you can just slide your cotter pin back into place, and it'll lock up against that castle. Now we can go back up top, finish threading on your nuts at the top of the strut. And then we're taking a 15mm ratcheting wrench and tightening those down. So now I've got a pole jack under our lower control arm, putting a load on our suspension so we can tighten down our lower strut bushing. You want to make sure you have a load on any bushings before you tighten them. So I'm going to take a 19mm wrench and a 19mm socket to tighten that down. And then while we're over here with our 19mm, we can reinstall our tie rod in. Now just wiggle that knuckle back and forth to get that in, and then thread on your castle nut. And we'll take our 19mm socket to tighten that down. Same thing with your upper ball joint. You want to tighten until the slot in the castle nut lines up with the hole in the stud. We need to go a little bit more, so we're not quite lined up yet. Right there, we're good. So now we'll take our cotter pin, slide it through the hole in the stud, and then grab the needle nose pliers and just bend the edges with those cotter pins in opposite directions. And then we just got our last few things to button up. Got our brake line bracket, our ABS wire bracket, and our sway bar end link. I'm going to start with our sway bar. Slide that through the knuckle. Thread your nut on the other side and tighten that down with a 17mm socket. And then we'll pull out the bolts for our brackets. Thread those back in. And we're going to be using a 10mm socket for our top bracket and a 12mm down here. And then you can repeat that process on the other side. Now, last thing we need to do is just reinstall our skid plate. We'll just swing that back up, thread in our bolts. Now, if you completely remove the skid plate, you just gotta hook it back onto those hooks at the front and then install your hardware. And then just take your 12mm socket and tighten all of those down. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the Rough Country M1 Adjustable Leveling Front Struts for 0 to 2 inch lift for your 2005 to 23 6-lug Tacoma. Thanks for watching, and for all things Tacoma, keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.